Welcome back to Real Amigos. You just get the. All right. Sorry about that. All right. I'm here. No more technical issues. Okay. It's just me today. Ian is on the road to Chicago, and then I'm going to be meeting him next week we're going to be in Detroit doing a talk for real estate agents. If you are a real estate agent and you want to join one of our talks about growing business, shoot me a line. Okay, so happy new year. I am here. It is good to see you again. Tell me where you're coming in from. I definitely would love to hear that. It's going to be a one-man band today, but I have a lot to go through. There's a lot of things that have happened. Obviously, if you watch my video that I put out, what is today, Wednesday, put out yesterday with Ivy Zellman, talking about what's happening in the market. A few people got a little salty with that. It's funny. I was reporting on what someone else said, and I got called the realtor that just tells you to always buy, which is definitely not what I said. Anyway, all right, we got some coming in from Cherry Creek. Good to see you. Is that acquaintance level? I like that. All right, good to see you. Okay, so you were here. There's a lot to go through. So I want to go through. Here's my list of today. We're going to go over the economic. So first of all, CoreLogic came out with their stats and numbers. Now, CoreLogic is primarily the database company for the MLSs, most MLSs like the Austin MLS. So their numbers came out as far as like November. So we're going to go through that. I also want to go through and talk with you about the Austin economic forecast as far as Austin goes. And this isn't just housing, but more of like just a forecast for Austin, looking at jobs and things coming here. We're going to talk about some new acquisitions in the area, buildings. And then we're going to talk about the Leander lagoon that everybody's been wanting to hear about. We're going to talk about that, when that's going to actually be. If you know the Leander lagoon or know what I'm talking about, the Leander lagoon is this big lagoon that's supposed to be up in Leander. That's it. Bunch of retail space and stuff happening up there. And then we're going to talk about the one thing that some people don't want to hear about, and that is the lawsuits piling up against the light rail. So drop a comment and where you're coming in from. If you had a great holiday, let me know. I want to hear from you in the comments. What was your New Year resolution? I started my New Year resolution back in April of last year, losing 50 pounds. Thank you. I no longer have to make myself look thin on my thumbnail. So it's pretty exciting. All right, let's hear from you from where you are. And then let's get straight into this. So CoreLogic, like I said, is the accounting firm that pretty much does all the database for the Austin area or for most MLSs. But what CoreLogic is saying based on their stats for 2023 is that nationwide homes, and this is what's interesting because everybody's saying, oh, prices are dropping. But nationwide home prices, including distressed sales, increased by 5.2% year over year in November. So from November 23 to November 22, you saw a 5.2% increase. And in Austin, we saw these numbers. They showed us up 1%. And that was one thing I talked about, that potentially, I've said this all year, that Austin could potentially end positive year over year just because we dropped so much in 2022. I can show you those stats a little bit later. I'll pull that up. But anyway, on a month-to-month basis, though, home prices increased by only 0.2%. So there still was some sort of a month-over-month increase from October to November. So it's interesting because CoreLogic takes a day or two to really a little bit to get some of these stats out. So they're like one of the ones that like takes the longest to get these stats out. So also what they're saying is CoreLogic home price forecast predicts a month over month decrease of 0.02%. So pretty much going back down from November to December. What's interesting is we had a lot of, typically what happens in the market is that you see a run up in November, right? So the very first week of November, really up until Thanksgiving, you see a ton of sales go through. This year, we didn't really see those sales like we normally do. It was slower. In fact, it wasn't until right after Thanksgiving. Well, what happened about 2 weeks before that is we saw interest rates start to drop. And then in the middle of December, we saw a big drop in interest rates going, from close to 8% all the way down to 6.62. They've come up, and that was on the CPI information that just came out. So pretty interesting stuff that, number one, sales prices didn't really drop nationwide. This is nationwide, not locally. I think it's really good for us to look nationally to also look locally. I like to look at both. But they say, however, on a year-over-year basis, home prices are expected to increase by 2.5% from November 23 to November 24. So CoreLogic is basically saying, and this is the same thing that I talked about the other day with the article from Ivy Zelman, was the fact that Ivy Zelman said that in 21, the overall market was supposed to be up 1%. Somebody in the comments got really offended on that video and said that I was saying that Austin was going to be up 2%, which I never said that. I never really I don't think I gave a full prediction on Austin. I don't think I really have, but maybe I did. I sometimes I film these videos and forget what I even talk about. So, but they're saying for 2023 to 2024, we are looking at a basically a increase of 2.5% is what they're saying, which is pretty interesting, I think. I mean, you tell me what you think in the comment section here, but the biggest sales regions were actually the Northwest. So Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, New Hampshire. Austin was definitely not on this list. Wisconsin, Vermont, Michigan, Missouri, Ohio, and South Carolina. The areas in that, but the top 10 metros, this is what I found interesting. And I really like this chart here. If you're looking at the actual metros, let me take this thing off of here. Banners remove. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for the one comment. Where is everybody at tonight, man? Geez, I know it's been a new year. So the top 10 metros with the highest home price gains in November were Miami, 8.3%, San Diego, 7.7%, Chicago, 6.5%, Boston, 6.6%, DC, DC up 5%, basically, Phoenix up 3.9%, LA 3.8%, Las Vegas 3%, Denver 1%, and Houston 1.3%. What I found interesting on here is that they're saying San Diego is overvalued, Phoenix is overvalued, Miami's overvalued. In fact, I have some more information. Maybe I'll share a little bit later, but I was actually looking at another report that was saying that Tampa was going to see, in fact, it's actually this report right here. It's saying that Tampa is at high risk of home correction or a decline. What's interesting about this is Austin's not on this list. I think, and what we'll talk about here in a second with the Austin economy is that there is some strength in the Austin economy, not a ton of strength, but not what we saw during COVID. I know everybody wants to say, well, strength. No, it's not strength. It's not as strong as COVID. Well, of course, it's not as strong as COVID. We're talking about super inflated numbers and super inflated time. What up, T. Burton? Good to see you. Coming in for Colleen, considering moving to Austin. Yeah, Colleen to Austin. It's a little bit of a drive. You're thinking about downtown. What are you thinking about? What's up, Afro Capitalist? It's good to see you. Ian is not here tonight. I'm sorry about that. Ian is my man, but he is on the road. The other markets I thought were interesting: Palm Beach, Tampa, Daytona. So a lot of Florida are looking like 3 of the top 5 are all in Florida. Pretty interesting. And then Atlanta is looking at a high risk of seeing a negative turn in the market. What's interesting, though, if we go to this, which is the next thing, is that the mortgage application volume rose 9%. Now, a part of this, we were just talking about, part of this has to do with the fact that we saw interest rates. Geez, people, relax. Sorry, I get text. Turn on do not disturb. There we go for 1 hour. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So total mortgage application volume rose 9.9% in over the previous week. The information is based on the Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted index. The average contract interest rose for the 30-year fixed rate mortgages for conforming loan balances of over 726 or less, increased by slightly to 6.81. Remember, it was 6.76. Points remained unchanged for loans with a 20% down. Anyway, basically what it's saying, we saw more loans or more loan applications over the last week. Now, a lot of that's because interest rates are now under 7%. A lot of people are getting used to these 7-8%. I mean, what are you seeing out there? Are you looking, are you still considering, even though interest rates are now at, you know, down below 7, not really better, but down below 7. Applications to refinance homes saw a significant increase of 19%, which is interesting because a year ago, interest rates were at 7.25 at the same time. And now they're at, 6.25. And now they're at 6.81. So even though interest rates are higher, we are seeing more people look to refinance, probably because they got rates in the 8% earlier this year. The one thing that's interesting, though, about this is overall applications are down year over year, which is interesting. So January last year, 2023, we had more applications for mortgages, a lot less this year in January. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I think there's a little bit of fatigue. Interest rates are still 6.8 versus 6.2. I think also at the beginning of last year, people were kind of waiting to figure out what happened. 23 was a really tough year in real estate. What do you think? Are you more optimistic about 24, 25? I want to hear from you in the comments. For capitalists, what do you think? So moving on from this, though, see, what was the rate on this? They jumped up 29%, but it was down. Here we go. Applications for mortgages purchased at home rose 6% for the week, but were still 16% lower than the same week 1 year ago. So this has me a little bit concerned about the market, because if it's lower this year, we may not see the spur of buyers out there. What's also pretty interesting is that, we're starting the Austin market right now. We're starting the Austin market this year at, 9,500 units on the market. I can pull that up in a second. 9,500 units on the market. Last year, we started about 7,500 units on the market. So we're already, 2,500 units more on the market. And this is one thing that Ian and I, and especially me, have been talking about on this channel, is that the more inventory we get on the market, we are going to see depreciating in prices. I'm going to try to do this week a whole video on rentals, because I think there's a lot of information out there on rentals now. We're having I think a clearer picture, and rentals have come down. Now we have a lot of multifamily. So more multifamily and people renting longer could mean that prices don't increase. And so that leads me to the economic information that came out really from Austin Business Journal. A lot of the economists in Austin, obviously these economists in Austin are going to want to have a strong forecast for the Austin market, right? I mean, they don't want to say, oh no, Austin's going to have a bad year, but economists predict strong business activity in Austin Metro for 2024, despite a slowdown from the post-pandemic boom in 2023. They expect continued robust growth driven by new jobs and people moving to the area. In a second, I'm going to tell you about some of the job openings that are coming to the Austin area, because there still are jobs here. I know a lot of people are telling me that there's not jobs, and you tell me in the comment section. Maybe that's why it wouldn't let me go. Okay. I don't like that. My head's too small. How about that? No. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Austin economy rebounded after the 2020 pandemic slump with significant real GDP growth in 21 of 10.5%. So imagine in January 2020 or 2021, we saw a GDP of 10.5%, and in 2022 is 7.4%. That's a ton of activity in the market. So, or not in the market, but just in the overall economy. Now, that's why when we get to 2023, it dropped considerably. It went down to like 2%. So economists like Peter Rodriguez at Rice University and Luis Torres of Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas see a bright future for Austin, barring any major economic disruption. Predictions for 2023 growth from 2.5 to 5.5 with similar expectations. Basically, they're saying that anything around 3% for the Austin area is going to be fantastic. So think about that. You have a ton of growth happening in Austin right now. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of the moves happening right now. Afroeconomist says, how should we invest in Austin if cash flow is not possible? That's a good question. I'm having that conversation with a lot of clients currently right now. The question they're asking me is, do we go all cash and then refi out later, or do we do 50% down? So it's interesting because I'm having more right now. I'm having more investors reach out to me than I have in a while, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, cash flow is a problem. There's some creative ways. So the land ordinance are changing a little bit. So what we're going to see is more people trying to take and put more units on properties, and so that could spur, especially if you're looking at infill. Right, I met with an investor the other day. We were looking at buying up land and properties that had an existing house on there, remodel the house, and then put a new house in the back. And what the rental rates would look like for those. And it's tough because rental rates have come down a little bit, and we'll talk about that. So thank you for the comment. We'll keep rolling here. Still not going to help me out with that, huh? I got this cool little switcher and it still doesn't switch on me. All right. Higher interest rates in 2023 cooled the local housing market. The tech sector, a significant part of the Austin's economy, experienced layoffs impacting jobs market and overall office space, which we'll talk about office space in a second. Despite the layoffs, Austin employment rate grew, reaching a new record high in November 2023. The region has added a significant number of jobs since 2018, leading U.S. major markets in percentage growth. Austin's unemployment rate remains low compared to other regions, although it has increased slightly in 2023. Yeah, it went back down to 3.3%. It went up to 3.6%. So the unemployment rate came down, regardless of everyone saying that, wow, there's a lot of unemployment and a lot of people getting laid off. What's interesting is there was a study that came out just this month saying that of all the areas of Texas, Austin had the most notifications for people being terminated. And that was out of a study out of Dallas. So Austin did lead the pack on vacancies. So Austin continues to attract new resident businesses with significant investments like Samsung and Tesla. And we're going to talk about Tesla in a second. I don't have an article here, but Tesla is growing footprint still in Austin. Economists anticipate a revival in the local real estate market in 2024. Interesting that they're saying that, because when I say that, people get really upset with me. By expecting interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. Now, what's interesting about the Federal Reserve, if you paid attention, is in their notes, they actually kind of said that it's going to be really, really hard for them to actually cut rates. So we may not see rates cut. I'll get to that comment in a second. OC, thank you. Economists express optimism for both Austin and the Texas economies in 2024, expecting solid growth and less unforeseen national economic issues. So that's what this article talks about. And I think it was really good indication of what they're thinking about for the Austin area in 2023. Let's get to some of these comments. Keep dropping comments. I'll keep rolling. Job opportunities from my view, state agencies. Good job opportunities, T. Burton says. Interesting. What job markets are you looking in? What are you looking at for that as well? I'm curious, like what job opportunities you're looking at. For 500 to 600, what neighborhood would you suggest in Dripping Springs and why? Well, this is why my clients work with us, is because I give them all the really, really good information. There's a couple of really good areas in Dripping Springs. The thing about Dripping Springs is that you have, if you're in Dripping Springs proper, it is quite a drive to Austin. If you don't care about the drive into Austin and you're going to work from home, then there's a couple I can really, really suggest to you. Definitely reach out if you want to be a client, because we give a ton more information to our personal clients than we do online. And we give out a lot of free information on here. There's a couple really good ones though. I've done videos on them on this channel, so you can find them. All right. Okay. So next we are going to get to IBM. So IBM, man, I just wish this would work. Boom. No, still not working. Okay. So IBM is taking up more space up near the domain. So this is interesting. IBM, a major tech player in the Austin area, has chosen the northern tip of the domain for a future regional hub. And it decided, this which was decided at the beginning of 2023, IBM is adding 50,000 square feet to lab space in Northeast Austin as Palmer Impact Labs near Samsung Austin factory. This new state-of-the-art development lab will focus on innovation and is part of IBM's investment in the modern spaces. What's interesting is it didn't really talk about how many jobs that they were going to create with this 50,000 space, but IBM's team in Austin is involved in various business aspects, including software development, hybrid cloud, and artificial intelligence. In recent years, IBM has made significant real estate changes in Austin. The company currently leases over 8,000 square feet. So if we're talking about people downsizing square footage, you still have places like IBM or companies like IBM increasing their square footage. The currently leases 8,000 square feet. The domain, but near the domain, but plans to move a new building development by Hines, occupying about 320,000 square feet. The new building near the domain is expected to be completed by 2027. It's going to be like a 14-story building. Pretty interesting. Here, let me show you. Here's a quick look at it. So pretty cool looking building. This is going to be up in the domain. So they're looking to occupy this by 2027. So still a lot of growth and a lot being built in the Austin area, which takes me to my next article, which is about WeWork. Because as we talk about, more office space and commercial space, we talk about WeWork. WeWork has reduced office space in the South by Southwest Center in downtown Austin, previously occupied about 65,000 square feet across 3 floors. The space is now available for leasing. I wonder if I can get a lease in there. Anybody else want to go lease it? I need an office space. So I think, would you come visit me in this building? In fact, I may or may not be. Why is this thing not working now? It was working so beautifully. I may or may not be at Cosmic Coffee tomorrow between 10 and 12. So if you want to come get a cup of coffee and hang out with me, I may be there between 10 and 12. You might find me. So stop by Cosmic Coffee. It is true that Samsung is it true that Samsung is not just building a plant, but wants to build Samsung City? Well, what's interesting you bring that up is that in Austin right now, that whole community right next to the current Samsung plant was previously all Samsung employees. So I 100% believe that they will most likely have one. And you also think about Elon's building. They have a Lennar's building at Forum. There's a whole community being built in Bastrop for Tesla. And Lennar is happy to build it for him. Also, did Leander approve the water again? We're going to talk about that in a second. The water park. Yeah, we'll go through that in a second. I have it right here. Oh man, texts are flying through. Jeez. Okay. So the vacated space on the 7th, blah, blah, you don't care about WeWork, right? But WeWork, I mean, they went into foreclosure or not foreclosure, but bankruptcy. So since the reduction follows the Chapter 11 bankruptcy in November, initially WeWork's Austin properties seem unaffected, but the lease is terminated but the lease termination of 1400 Lavaca indicates a change. The expected closure date for the Southwest Center site is unknown. However, WeWork representatives stated that the decision to terminate the lease was made before the bankruptcy filing. The company aims for a sustainable and profitable structure to serve. Man, I'd love to lease some of this space. How cool would that be to have space down there? The vacated space spans the 7th to 9th floors of the Southwest South building. So hit me up. I'm going to go lease out that spot. Okay. Let's get to the next one that I want to talk about, and that's the one that you are asking about, and that is this. Report Leander Spring development now expected to be completed in 2027. So this is what we want to talk about. This was interesting because this lagoon was hotly contested because everybody wanted it. I wouldn't even say it was contested. Everybody wanted it. I thought this was cool. I thought this was going to be a great project. The project initially announced in 2020 has missed the first development deadline. iDevelopment Group, the company behind the group, now targets to complete by 2027. Leander Springs is planned to include a 4-acre lagoon, up to 1,600 multifamily unit and hotels, and over 1 million square foot of commercial space. The 78-acre project is located about 35 minutes from downtown Austin. Now, here's where things get really, really interesting is the developers have secured incentives and final zoning approval for Leander from the Leander Council. The incentives agreement approved in 2020 includes $22 million in performance-based incentives. So the project CFO, Aubrey, can't say the last name, cited an overly optimistic timeline and the pandemic as reasons for the delay. The construction process is expected to take around 2 years after obtaining necessary permits, which could also take 2 more years. And so that's the thing that we talk about a lot on this channel, is the fact that it is so hard to get permits and it's so hard to build. Everybody thinks it's so easy to build in Austin. Why aren't they building faster? Well, the permits take forever. The developers have secured over $200 million through the line of credit, which they plan to refinance in subsequent project phases. The success of the success of future phases hinges on the leasing and refinancing of the apartments and retail space. So look for that. I'm curious if you want to live on the lagoon, if you would rent or buy one of these spaces. I think it'd be cool to live on a lagoon. I may or may not be listing a $10 million property soon that has a 4-acre pond on it, which is really cool. So looking at that thing is pretty amazing. It's interesting. It has to be dyed all the time, though, to stay blue. Anyway, the Leander City Council has been discussing the project in executive sessions, considering the addendum to the Chapter 380 agreement. No action has been taken yet because there's incentives tied up in this. And so missing the first round means that they may not get all of these incentives. So they're trying to renegotiate this. Last year, developers were testing water wells at the site, and the city was reviewing improvement plans. A site plan review was the next anticipated step. Aquatic Development Group is confirmed to build the Epic Surf, a stationary surf experience, as part of the development. They're a Miami-based company. This is pretty interesting. So we're looking at 2027 now. I wish it was going to be sooner because, I may not be in Austin in 2027. Many of us may not be here, and I'd love to see a lagoon in Leander, but it is looking like it is going to be. And drop me a comment in the comments. Do you really think that this lagoon will be done by 2027? I want to hear from you. It has been quiet in the comments today. I really appreciate my main man, Afro Capitalist, for dropping most of the comments here. T. Burton as well. OC, sorry, I couldn't answer your question more, but there's a lot of really good neighborhoods in Dripping Springs. Hit me up. Okay. So here's what's getting pretty interesting. I have railed against this project from the beginning. I have been one of the people that said this is a no good, does not do anything. People won't ride it plan. But the light rail is now getting sued. This was supposed to be a $7 billion project. Well, here we go. Lawsuit targeting light rail rattles Austin transit plans. So again, the light rail was going to be built and it was going to be underground. I was one of the people that was like, look, building this thing underground is absolutely not going to work. So you can't go subterranean in Texas or in Austin, primarily because we are built on limestone. Building a pool out here costs so much more, and that is 100% because of the limestone, and it is not easy. So the Austin Transit Partnership and the Austin City Council are contending with a lawsuit from opponents of the city plan to construct a 15-stop light rail system. Now, if you remember, this has now changed variations, I think twice, and they are looking at another variation now. The $5 billion light rail project is part of the broader $7.1 billion Project Connect initiative approved by voters in 2020. It aims to modernize Austin transportation network. Again, they were going to have, electric buses and all this fun stuff, super futuristic. Opponents argued that the project will negatively impact local businesses and has undergone significant changes since its voter approval, making it unrecognizable. Interestingly enough, the city and the ATP dispute claims that the lack of authority or community support for the project. ATP Executive Director Greg Canley emphasized that 58% of voters supported the funding of the high-capacity transit in 2020 Proposition A ballot. I would like to revote on that and see how many people vote the second time. Do you think that, look, 2020, we were in the middle of a pandemic, right? We were in the middle of a pandemic when people voted for this. So a lot of this was mail-in balloting. So do you think mail-in ballots, do you think that that this would have still passed today in the current economy. I want to hear from you in the comment section, because 58% of people voted for this. I wonder how many people vote now based on all of the issues that it has had. So this is kind of weak sauce for me when Greg says that it was voted for 58%. Take a new poll, bud. The city's legal defense, represented by the firm Norton Rose Philibert, was authorized by a $350,000 contract. The city is requesting the court to require the plaintiff to cover the court costs. The lawsuit was filed by former Travis County Judge Bill Alshear on behalf of Dirty Martin's Place, a local business. By Dirty Martin's Place, a local business. Other plaintiffs include Suzanne Almez, an environmental activist, State Senator Gonzalo, Travis County Commissioner Margaret Gomez, and former Austin City Council member Ora Houston. They say the city's filing as a routine, and Alshear says, described the city's filing as routine and is determined to continue legal fight against the project's funding and the execution. A previous attempt to restrict the project through state legislation, the No Blank Check Act, was unsuccessful. The act proposed by State Rep. Ellen Troxclair, thank you, Ellen, saw another vote and dedicating taxpayer money to the project. The initial group of designers and contractors for the light rail project are expected to be selected this year. So pretty interesting stuff here. It's rough for me to sit back and look at this, because I was one of those people that really said that this wouldn't work. And obviously we are now here and it is not working. So where are you at in the comments? Where are you tuning in from? I'm sorry, it's just me today. I'm sorry you got just me, but I ran through all that pretty quick. It's easy to run through this stuff pretty quick when you don't have Ian here and have a good, fun banter. So, all right, I'm going to leave it there then. No more comments. I'm going to let it go. Y'all have a great night. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. We got a lot of stuff happening next week. Ian and I will be hammering out some real amigos, so we'll see you then.